Welcome back, everyone. I am Psycho Emerald, and today I am once again talking about the Gamerverse Marvel Legends Insomniac Spider-Man from Spider-Man 2. Now, I feel like I've talked about this figure extensively on the channel, and I really haven't. I've only made one video, but I've spent so much time thinking about this figure and discussing it online, and now I have it. I've actually had it for, I think, about 2 weeks now, and I apologize for taking so long to finally get the video out, since I know this is a topic a lot of you guys are interested in. But I got the figure in, and I didn't really know what to say that would really add to what I said in the previous video before I had the figure, because it's just a repaint. To get the obvious things out of the way, it's just a repaint. It's just the Renew Your Vows body sculpt painted to look like Insomniac Spider-Man. And we all knew that's what it was going to be. So we've experienced this figure before in the articulation. It's very good. But it would have been way cooler, and they could have done way more if they had done a new updated sculpt for Insomniac Spider-Man. But it would have looked so much cooler and been so much more of a fun experience to have this figure if it was an all-new sculpt for Insomniac Spider-Man. And so yeah, it's pretty unfortunate that they didn't do that. And like I said, it's my favorite version of Spider-Man. I've said that in the previous video, and I'll say it again. It's my favorite version of Spider-Man. That game, it just really encapsulates Spider-Man to me, and so I needed a figure of this. So that's where a lot of my thoughts and my more forgiving opinions on the figure are going to come into play later, as I just love the character. But yeah, just get the obvious things out of the way. It doesn't really constitute a $35 price tag. Is it worth that? We'll get to that later, but does it constitute that with how we know the Marvel Legends and just Hasbro figure pricing works in general? No, this should have been a $25 figure. We'll talk about this stuff later, but that definitely doesn't make it worth $35 either, in my opinion, especially with a lot of the things that this figure is lacking, which we will get to later as well. But first, we can talk about things that I think I noticed that I really liked about it now that I have the figure. Of course, being a sucker for this suit, and when I say it's my favorite version of Spider-Man, it's not just the look, it's the character itself. But to talk about the look, it's one of my favorite Spider-Man suits, like just ever. I think the striking white marks on it, on the back and the front and on the gauntlets here, it just makes for a really unique looking Spider-Man, and I've always really loved that. And when I look at it on my shelf for not too long, I look there and I see my favorite Spider-Man. So that's a plus. And that's something I can say now that I have the figure that I couldn't say really before was, yes, having it in the collection is satisfying enough because of how much I love the character and the suit design. It's just really nice to have it in the collection. And then another comment I wanted to make about the look that didn't show up in the promo images, which I can show on screen, he is orange. Like, he is orange. So what everyone complains about the Insomniac Advanced Spider-Man suit is it's orange instead of red. And I'll admit, I would rather it was red, but I'd be lying if I said that orangish look didn't grow on me by the end of the game. And it's present here. So I don't know if that's the way it's going to be in Spider-Man 2. I doubt it, but I love that that's the way it looks here, because once again, it just evokes more of that same feeling when I look at the figure if it has the somewhat off-red, orangish coloring correct. So that's something that didn't show up in the promo shots, and something now that I have it in hand. It definitely has an orange tint to it, so if that's something you're into, you'll dig it. If it's not something you're into because you don't like that about the suit, then yeah, you probably won't like that. And I can say it's just a joy to pose, because the Renew Your Vows articulation is just so good. Like, it's just so satisfying to pose this thing, and you can just do so many fun things with it. And I could just stay here and fiddle with it for hours, just like the regular Renew Your Vows Spider-Man figure. So if they're gonna pick a body to repaint, I'm glad they used the Renew Your Vows one. But once again, it's just not anything new. We've owned this figure before if we've had the Renew Your Vows figure, so we know what we're getting into, so it's not really a new experience. So those are the things that I enjoyed now that I have the figure, that I can definitely comment on now that I've owned it for a little while. But something I did want to talk about are the things that bother me about the figure. And we'll start with the more minor one, which is the web effects. I don't know what to do with these, apart from this one. Like, this one you can put on his hand and make it look like he's punching, which is cool. And this one, they've been using it forever, but it also came with the upgraded suit from No Way Home, which I also have. So now I have two of these things, and yeah, it's kind of weird how they have like a little triangle grip thing there. It's not the best, but it exists. This is cool if you have someone for him to web up, but otherwise it's just a weird addition. And then these things are completely useless. Like, I can't even think of a situation where you'd use these. What would you, like, stick them to another character to make it look like? They don't stick onto anything, though, so these little splatter pieces are kind of useless. So, yeah, the web effects, they exist, but they definitely don't make it worth $35. To me, at least, that's not why I got the figure, and I'm really not a fan of most of those web effects. But I wanted to talk about my biggest gripe with the figure that I didn't know would be my biggest gripe with the figure, other than the price, of course, but it's the hands.
Hands.
I knew going into this that it wasn't going to have matching sets of hands. I knew that. I didn't know how much it was going to bother me. I'm someone who likes, especially when a figure has good articulation, to take it down and repose it and do new things with it. And when it comes to Spider-Man, I want to have the full posability. And part of what that means is not just articulation, but the options. So you want to have a full array of hands. So having just one web shooter hand, I didn't realize how obnoxious that was going to be if I want to have him in a pose where he's shooting a web shooter with his left hand. It's not possible to do with the figure, because he can't have a web shooter in his left hand because he doesn't have a left web shooter hand, just a right one, which that's ridiculous. Considering the price point for this, it should absolutely come with at least matching sets of hands, which is things that we've gotten with a regularly priced Spider-Man figure. So not only are you not doing a new sculpt and pricing it at $35, you're not even including what's standardly released figures such as the symbiote Spider-Man and other Spider-Mans in the line have come with the full arrays of hands, matching pairs of hands. So only coming with one web shooter hand is kind of egregious, and I would say the same thing for this. Not quite as egregious, but still egregious, because now you can't have anything but his left hand in the spread out or wall crawling pose. So that's kind of ridiculous, because what's even the point of just including one? Now you can only use it on one of the hands. So it's just kind of ridiculous that for the price point they didn't include the full array of hands. For like a deluxe price, they couldn't even include things that come with a standard Spider-Man figure. I would much rather have a full array of hands, another web shooter hand and another spread out hand, rather than all of this junk. I don't need this stuff. That's the most disappointing thing for me, is that I'm not able to do everything I want to do with the figure because he doesn't have the alternate hands to be able to do so. So I guess what it could come down to is it was a pretty lazy release. Like, it was pretty lazy of them to just assume we were all gonna buy it, and they were right. Is it worth it though? Like, obviously they didn't put the effort in to do a new sculpt. They didn't put the effort in to have the full sets of hands. And then on top of all of that, they price it at $10 more than the other figures, and that just, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth no matter what. No matter who you are, there's no way that doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth when the company does that. Well, it didn't ever leave me not wanting to get the figure just because of how much I love the character. It did disappoint me that this was the route they were going to go with this figure instead of doing something new. And instead of, even if you're going to do a repaint, I don't mind that too much, but don't charge me extra for a repaint. But I guess at the end of the day, it's my fault for buying it. But would I say it's worth it? No, and also yes. It really depends on your experience. If this is a character you really want to have in your collection, I'd say it's absolutely worth it for $35, because like I said, he's a joy to pose around when it comes to the articulation. They got the kind of eye shape and the overall look of the figure. It's just a very simplistic version of it, and it would have been cooler if we got a more detailed, intricate version like the Miles Morales figures they've done. I think it's odd that they didn't do a new one, but here we are. Here we are with this figure. I will say this is your best option. If you love Insomniac Spider-Man and you want a good Insomniac Spider-Man figure, this is your best option, and you should absolutely jump on it now before it goes to crazy prices, even crazier than $35. $35 for retail is crazy, but just wait 2 years from now when it's worth, what, like $70? Like, we've seen what the other ones are worth in a couple of years. This thing is not going to be $35. So grab it while you can if this is a character you need. If it's not one you need, definitely pass on it. It's only really worth it if you really want the character. I'm glad I have the figure, but it didn't have a great impression once I did finally get it because of the hand issue and the massive amount of web accessories I have no clue what to do with. But yeah, if you like the Renew Your Vows sculpt and you like Insomniac Spider-Man and you need that character in your collection, I definitely recommend getting it, but if you don't need it, definitely pass on it. It wouldn't really be worth it if you don't care about the character. So yeah, that's gonna pretty much be my thoughts on this figure. I did enjoy making this review. If you enjoyed watching it, please leave a like. I'd really appreciate that. Let me know what you think of this figure. I know a lot of people have some pretty passionate takes on it, and I did as well. So I was glad to be able to share it with you guys. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I would really appreciate that. If you like Marvel Legends reviews, I do a lot of that on my channel, and if you aren't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing in order to join the Knights of Mischief, or just check out a couple other videos if you want. I'm not here to tell you what to do, of course. So yeah, I really hope you guys found this review helpful, enjoyable, and I'll see you all in the next one.